Welcome into this Monday edition of ESPN FC. Alejandro Moreno, Stevie Nichols, Sebastian Salazar here in studio. We'll be joined in just a little bit by Mark Ogden. From
Welcome,
Manchester.
Sebastian Salazar.
It is great to be
what a
here.
moment.
I was wondering how eager you would be to greet me.
I missed that pronunciation.
I'm just saying.
Sebastian.
I've had to medicate myself for
You
this
did?
week.
Okay, you got to get ready for what's coming.
Well, you know, just got to prepare for this. Got to do a preseason for this.
This chemistry will be on display all week. We're very glad to say that. However, there's business at hand. Manchester City celebrating their treble, their historic treble. We will hear from Mark Ogden in a little bit, but our Alexis Nunes was in Manchester to take in all the day's festivities. Here she is.
So as we all know, Manchester City are domestic treble champions, and I've only been in Manchester for about an hour now, and one thing I've realized is that everyone here loves to party, especially when City have won trophies. The fans have been pouring in, the music is getting loud, and you guys already know I'm pretty loud. Things are about to get wild and lit, so you know I have to be right in the middle of it. Let's go find out. So history made this season. I've heard that Mancunians know how to party. It's only Monday though, so how hard are you going to party tonight?
Oh, plenty.
Certainly great tomorrow.
All I can say is party hard, as we do with Mancunians, so party very, very hard.
If you could trade places with Liverpool and be in the Champions League final instead of the domestic treble, would you?
Not a chance. No chance. No.
Forget about it, Liverpool.
Yeah, forget about it, Liverpool. Yeah.
No, I don't think so. You know, we won everything in England, so we'll be in the Champions League next year.
We will never ever swap it, never, because that's one trophy and we will win it eventually. So it's just a matter of time. Winning three, no one's ever done it before.
No, because we're here now and we've got a treble. Bigger than the Champions League.
Oh, absolutely. 3 trophies is better than 1. And what's been your highlights of the season? If you could choose one.
Well, obviously it's a company goal, isn't it?
Winning the Premier League. Beating Liverpool.
Vincent Kompany's goal against Leicester.
If you could tell Vincent Kompany anything now, what would you say?
Thank you very much for all your service you've done. Such a brilliant person, never mind being a footballer. And he shows the youngsters of today what football's all about.
He's taken our club from nothing to where it is today. You know, we can't thank him enough for what he's done. He's a legend. Vincent
Kompany gave an emotional leaving speech that was enough to warm the coldest of hearts. That goes out to you, Sebi and Ali, because we all know that Stevie's a softie at heart. Now, Oasis is playing, so you know I have to go and join in. It's been a good time. See you guys later.
Wow, and we're the cold-hearted ones, huh?
Yep. Are you going to take this personally?
I take everything personally.
Is this going to hurt you?
No, I'll probably just repress it for a while, and we'll bring it up in like 6 months next time.
That's healthy.
Let's bring this up now. Mark Ogden, on our website, Gab Marcotti has written that this is the best team of the Premier League era. Straight question to you, Mark. Do you agree?
No. Listen, this Man City team's a great team. You know, the last year, 100 points, 98 points this year. You can't really suggest that there are many better teams. But I just think if you go back to 1999, you had, for me, the treble winners in Man United, the previous season's double winners in Arsenal. I think those two teams were so strong and so on top of the game that I think that both those teams would give City a game. I'm not suggesting that they both beat City, but I do think that they should be in the conversation because, you know, you're talking about, I think, the two strongest teams of the Premier League era. I think, obviously, City's squad now is much deeper than those two, but I do think that historically, I think we should kind of give plenty of credit to those two as well. I mean, there have been some other good teams. You know, Chelsea and Mourinho in his first season. United have had a couple of great teams. You know, they won the Champions League in 2008. But I do think that City are up there with Arsene Wenger's first great Arsenal team and Ferguson's treble winners.
Stevie, what do you think? This City team the best of this Premier League era? First off,
you know, I think in today's game, when you look around Europe, the top teams in Europe, you're looking at all-star teams. You know, the teams that Mark's talking about there, the Arsenal team and the Man United team in the Premier League, they were sides that were put together with younger players who weren't quite matured yet, with a spattering of established stars. You know, that's how Man United and Arsenal, the great teams in the Premier League, were put together. This Man City team is an all-star team. It's been bought and put together.
So they're the best.
That doesn't mean it's not a great team, but it's a different era, and you can't say whether one team is better than the other, really.
Mark, a big part of this Manchester City team, obviously Vincent Kompany, Alexis Nunes telling us he gave an emotional speech today. It's hard to imagine that Manchester City will be quiet this summer, so how are they going to make this team even stronger, and starting with what they'll have to do at the back to replace Kompany?
Yeah, I think they'll bring about maybe 4 players in. I think if you look at Kompany, obviously 33 now, he's had a massive impact in the last month of the season, that goal against Leicester, but I think he was always going to go this summer. I think Pep has kind of gradually phased him out, but you know, you've got Laporte, who's been a fantastic signing, and he's the number 1 centre-half now. Pep hasn't really gone with John Stones much this season, but then Nicolas Otamendi might leave in the summer, and, you know, Mangala, who's not kicked a ball all season either, he'll go as well. So you're really down to Stones and Laporte as their only 2 centre-halves. So they're going to have to bring a centre-half in. Harry Maguire's been mentioned at Leicester. They're still keen on Matthijs de Ligt, but I think he's going to Barcelona. So there'll be a centre-half coming in. They need a left-back because he doesn't trust Mendy. I think, Mendy, when he plays, makes a difference, but he doesn't play often enough. So they need a left-back. If they could find another Andy Robertson, they'd take him straight away. In midfield, again, they've been looking for a long time to replace Fernandinho. Haven't found a guy. They went close to signing Fred 18 months ago. Jorginho last summer. Both those players they missed out on. I think City might have been happy to have missed out on them both in the end. And I think also they need probably another striker with Aguero, because although Gabriel Jesus scored in the cup final, I'm not quite sure he's the answer when Aguero's not fit. So I think looking at 4 players, and if people go like people like Leroy Sané, Riyad Mahrez, perhaps, they haven't had a great season, there could be more. So at least 4 signings, and I think City will be stronger next season.
Ale, Mark mentions there John Stones. You talked about him on yesterday's show. Do you think he'll ever make the grade at City?
Well, I think according to Pep Guardiola, and given the fact that he has chosen to go in the direction of Vincent Kompany, who had struggled with fitness this year, I think he's made that answer very clear. And he's made his assessment and said, you know what, maybe he's not the guy that we thought he was going to be, or hasn't been up until this point. And as Mark is talking about, you know that Manchester City is going to go out there looking for a center back, and whoever that person is and whoever that player is, you're going to make a big investment on him. That guy's going to play. And so then the whole John Stones project loses a whole lot of momentum. It doesn't feel like he took advantage of what could have been and might have been the season for him to step forward and say, okay, I'm the guy. So much so that Pep Guardiola decided to go in a different direction within the season. And in doing so, I think he sent a very clear message to John Stones, yeah, it's not happening for you here.
Stevie, how big is the Vincent Kompany loss?
Huge. I firmly believe that without Vincent Kompany in the second part of this season, Liverpool would have won the Premier League title. So when you're going to lose somebody as influential as him, how are you going to replace it? You know, you're talking about Stones there. He can't defend. And it's interesting that they're talking about Harry Maguire. You know, in Pep's first season, I don't think he really understood how important it was to have a big figure at the back that just defends. And it's not all about silky soccer. And I think that's why he will try and get Maguire, because he understands you need a rock, you need a solid defender, a guy who you know you're going to get what you're going to get out of him as far as defending. Forget the passing. He needs a defender.
Interesting to see who Man City brings in. We know they may move some pieces as well. Leroy Sané is a guy that has been talked about a lot. Mark, I'll come to you on this one. What's the latest? Where do you think Sané ends up if it is somewhere other than City?
Well, Bayern Munich are keen on Sané, but whether they can actually afford to do the deal, I'm not too sure about, because they've just signed 2 fullbacks. And I think, you know, Sané, if City let him go, I think they'd want at least 60, 70 million for him. And I think that is probably what his value is. I think he's an up-and-coming talent, but he's not playing enough for himself. Don't think Pep Guardiola trusts him, you know, with the defensive side of the game. So I think Sané could be a player that leaves, but who can afford him? I'm just not sure he's in Bayern's price range. So what may happen is that Sané stays, you know, maybe begrudgingly, and they might have to get rid of Riyad Mahrez, who has not had a great first season at the club. And I think, you know, they could certainly improve on Mahrez. So, but Sané, for me, is a player that it could be anything he wants. You know, he's got bits of Gareth Bale in him. He's like a young Ryan Giggs, but there's something that Pep doesn't trust in him. I think a bit like the John Stones equation. When Pep takes against a player, he doesn't seem to appear for quite a long time. And Sané, people say he's got a bit of an ego, that he doesn't like being kind of left out of the team. For me, that is an issue that's not going to go away. So if somebody's willing to pay 60, 70 million for Sané, I think he'll go.
All right, guys, City over the last 2 seasons, 198 points, 5 out of 6 domestic trophies. We're talking about all the players they could add. Is this team set up to be a dynasty?
But it's not going to be a one-horse race, that's for sure.
I think a lot of it has to do with what happens with Pep Guardiola and how long he decides to stay at Manchester City. because I think he has now built a stage where these players are willing to perform for him according to what he wants and according to his structure and according to the culture that he has certainly built within this organization. If he walks away, then you have to ask the question, does that culture walk away with him as well? Does that structure walk away with him as well? And then who steps in and tries to continue to have this team on a path that would be a dynasty, as you referred to it? There is all the makings of a dynasty here, because you have most of the core group of these players are either in their prime or coming into their prime. And those that are on the other side of their prime, well, they have the resources to go and get whoever they need to supplement this team. It's an amazing place to be as a team when you're thinking about adding pieces that are luxury pieces that are going to do a job for you. But to be quite honest with you, you have the makings of a team already. All you have to do is just add little pieces here and there that to make sure you continue the momentum going forward.
I don't know if you guys have noticed, Craig Burley's not here, which means we can mention financial fair play. I mention it because, Mark, we have all these investigations going on into Manchester City. Obviously a celebration today in Manchester. Was there a cloud over it at all, or are people on at least the blue side of Manchester just kind of pretending like all that's not happening?
Oh, it's definitely clear blue skies in Manchester. There's no clouds, and if there are any clouds that are mentioned, the people that mention them are kind of drowned out with a lot of noise from the City fans saying it's disrespectful to mention these things, or it's the wrong time, or it's jealousy, or it's bitterness. Look, they're being investigated by FIFA, UEFA, the Premier League, and the Football Association for a variety of different things. And City have insisted, they protest their innocence, that they've done nothing wrong. Time will tell, but while these investigations hang over them, of course there are questions and doubts placed against them. And I think, for me, they're winning too well at the moment. To beat Watford 6-0 in an FA Cup final, to win the league with 98 points, they're almost too good for the competition. And when that happens, clearly people will ask questions and people will be obviously out to rein them in as well. So we have to wait until these investigations kind of carry out and go through their full course, because if they are proven to have broken the rules or bent the rules or whatever they've done and they're punished for it, then that will obviously affect how this team's judged. But at the moment, we can only judge them on what we see right now, what we know right now. And what we know right now is that they've won the league title 2 years running, got 198 points. So they're pretty formidable. But the one thing I will say in terms of, how good are they, can this go on? It's up to the rest. It's up to Man United, to Arsenal, to Tottenham, to Chelsea to improve what they've been doing. Liverpool have done it. Liverpool have stepped up. But United and Arsenal have fallen asleep at the wheel in recent years. Tottenham haven't spent any money for 18 months. Chelsea have taken their eye off the ball. If these four clubs can start getting their act together, then it'll be much harder for City to dominate. So it's not just City being much, much better than the rest. The big rivals haven't really taken it on.